Loki had the highest premiere viewership of any of the new Marvel Disney Plus shows. This means that the marketing team did super well. I mean, damn bro, just look at this trailer. Like, you see this and you know you're guaranteed a good show. Plus, Tom Hiddleston. And that fans were super excited and willing to watch the show because they were attached to the character. However, within the first 3 episodes, the show has lost 160,000 viewers. Or in other words, 18% of the viewers from the first episode has decided to stop watching the show by the 3rd episode. This is a very bad sign. This also indicates that the show is losing audience interest because of the decisions made by the show's creators. Now, let's dive into what exactly went wrong. The transition from Avengers to Loki was very fast and an abrupt tonal shift. In Loki, you can tell that the writers are going for a more comedic tone, mirroring the same kind of comedic tone that Thor Ragnarok has, possibly because the movie did so well. However, you can't help but think that this is the same Loki from Avengers, the same one that was threatening, that was genuinely intimidating. Let me put it this way. This all happened within a week. The same Loki that said this on like a Monday.
Can you wipe out that much red? Dracov's daughter? Sao Paulo? Your ledger is dripping. It's gushing red, and you think saving a man no more virtuous than yourself will change anything? This is the basest sentimentality. This is a child at prayer. Pathetic.
Is now this by like Friday.
Do a lot of people not know if they're robots? What's that?
Your temporal aura.
What's that? You can smell the cologne of 2 Tony Stark.
I understand that this is a new project and that they could have a new tone with Loki. However, the tonal shift was just a bit of a shock, which made it harder for us to segue directly from Avengers to Loki. Okay, now it's time to dive into the meat of the argument. One of the biggest problems of the show is Loki and Sylvie's relationship. The way it's developed, the way it is, and how it's used to push Loki's character development along. Besides the weird, incestual, narcissistic kind of nature of their relationship, there is also a lot more details that make fans physically cringe whenever they see Loki and Sylvie get all steamy on screen.
Don't you dare disobey me, Coraline! Ah!
Firstly, let me just say, Marvel tends to hit it off, knock it out of the ballpark when it comes to writing for romantic relationships that they have already established. However, the establishing of the romantic relationships themselves could use a little work. Some romantic relationships in the MCU seem to appear literally out of nowhere, where it just feels like a slap to your face.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this.
Sylvie and Loki's enemies to friends to lovers relationship was established a really weird way. One of the biggest rules in screenwriting is show, don't tell. We want to see characters gain each other's trust and develop through their actions and choices rather than their conversations or words. But instead, we mainly saw Loki and Sylvie gain each other's trust just by talking. And while this could be okay, it felt like Sylvie gained Loki's trust much too quickly. One of their first conversations together is about their families and their love lives, 2 very personal topics that you wouldn't usually have in a first conversation with someone you've just met. This is why it kind of feels like the writers are forcing them to get personal to establish that future romantic relationship with each other. Once Loki and Sylvie stepped onto the train and started talking about their mommy issues, their sexuality, and how love is a metaphorical dagger, it kind of felt like I was watching 2 awkward teens on their first date. It gave very much strong first date vibes. How easily Sylvie gained Loki's trust can be contrasted with how difficult it was for Mobius to gain Loki's trust. It took him a whole episode trying to talk to him, trying to understand him, giving him opportunity after opportunity to open up, and when he finally earned that friendship with Loki, it felt nice. However, with Sylvie, it doesn't feel like she earned that trust. I feel like she just kind of received it because she's the pretty female version of himself. Why it doesn't feel as profound to me whenever Loki and Sylvie share this intimate moment on screen. It would be more profound if they had struggled to have that good relationship, if she had to earn his trust, and he didn't trust her immediately at first, which is, mind you, would be perfectly in character for Loki not to trust Sylvie when he first met her. But it would have been great if she slowly chipped away at his manipulative, lying self the same way that Mobius did. This brings me to my next point, which is that one of the biggest themes that the writers is trying to establish throughout Loki is that they're trying to prove that Loki is capable of caring for someone other than himself. Writers are trying to use Sylvie to prove that point, which doesn't work out because Sylvie is still essentially Loki. The writers are trying to make Loki a more three-dimensional character by saying he's not as narcissistic as you think. But having Loki fall in love with a female version of himself is one of the most narcissistic things that he could have possibly ever done. They've been developing Loki's I can care about someone else arc with Mobius since episode 1. They are using Sylvie to prove that point, but she is the wrong character to prove that point with. Because Mobius had to earn Loki's trust slowly and painfully, it feels much more satisfying to watch them interact, to watch them hug. Lastly, the whole incestual nature of Loki and Sylvie's relationship is just not it. Someone mentioned this in a TikTok, which I can't seem to find now for some reason, but they made such a good point. Young Loki killed his brother, Thor. Classic Loki bonds with our Loki by talking about how much he misses his brother, Thor. Boastful Loki holds Mjolnir in his hands, Thor's hammer, Thor. Thor and Loki are essentially defined by each other. Their brotherly relationship is a huge component of who Loki is. Sylvie never brings up Thor, even though that should be a huge component of who she is and what makes her a Loki. The creators most likely avoided this because they didn't want to remind us that Loki and Sylvie share a brother, hence feeding into this incestual nature of their relationship. As a side note, WandaVision set a really high bar for these other Disney MCU limited series shows because it was so good writing-wise, character development-wise, concept-wise. It's also interesting to note that with each episode of WandaVision, audience interest grew more and more, but mainly with the first 3 episodes of Loki, the opposite is happening. The show was losing audience interest. Essentially, there's a problem with how fast Marvel is pumping out these Disney Plus projects. The writers are experienced. The cast is amazing. They're all professionals. They've had a lot of experience. If they had more time, maybe they could do a better job. So it seems like Marvel is rushing them a little bit. And this can explain why we're starting to see maybe holes in their writing. I would also like to note, yes, I am holding Loki to a very high standard, but I hold Marvel to a very high standard because they have the money, the experience, the A-list talent to come out with these high quality projects. In conclusion, Loki is not terrible. It's not bad. There have been many times in the show where I've been watching and I'm super excited to find out what happens next. The concept is super duper cool, but at the same time, the show has a couple of flaws and I'm willing to point those out because I have high expectations for Marvel. So let me know what you guys think, what you guys thought of the show, what you guys think of this review, and I want to know your opinions on Sylvie and Loki's relationship, how the show is executed, and how you think Marvel is going about these Disney Plus projects. Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!